Welcome to Fantasy Football Aces. Yeah, it's your boy, William Wolf, and I'm fucking back. Man, OBS Studio's some shit. I don't understand why I gotta fix the fucking camera every single time. I put the broadcast live before I fixed it. I apologize, but I really don't, because I don't care. I don't do this shit for the views. I don't do this shit for the money. I do this shit for the love of the game, the fantasy football game. I'm live. And if you didn't click, I don't give a fuck. Because I'm rich. Anyways, Thursday night football's here. I got a big matchup against my guy, Young Kicker. We're live in the WhatsApp. Woo! Young Kicker, man. He'll be here Sunday. He couldn't make it today. His asshole was hurting. Literally. So, Young Kicker won't make it today, but he'll be here Sunday at 10:30 a.m. And we'll go over some Diamond League matchups. We'll go over some DraftKings $1,000 lineups. And we'll go over the pick of the week, baby. The betting pick of the week. But for tonight, let me grab my mouse. For tonight, we are going to talk about a little Thursday night football. So we got a big matchup this week against Young Kicker, as I was describing a second ago, and he has Christian McCaffrey. If you can see on your screen, he is projected for 19 points and a half-point PPR, while meanwhile, my guy who's going to match him, Tony Pollard, is only projected 13.81 against the Arizona Cardinals. I laugh at that. I laugh. I fucking laugh. You know why I laugh? Because it's a fucking joke. We got Tony Pollard going against Arizona. He's been underrated on Yahoo's projections since the beginning of the year. He's been underrated on projections in general from the fantasy community since the beginning of the year. He scored 16 points in his sleep last week against a tough Jets defense. What do you think he's going to do against the Cardinals? Come on, guys. Think about it logically. Don't think about it like an emotional person. I was going to say something else, but I think you get the drift. Yeah, man. Christian's posted at like minus 240 to score a touchdown today. He scored a touchdown in like 11 straight weeks or something ridiculous like that. I had Christian McCaffrey last year. He's a stud. But hopefully, tonight, Kittle finally has a big game. Hopefully Debo has a big game. Ayuk has a big game. Maybe Christian, takes one of those games where he only scores like 15, 16 points, like a sleepy week like Pollard last week. Because when you got a dog running back like that, even a 15, 16 point week is nice. But the way Kicker has built his team, he's very, very top heavy. If you're out there wondering how he has Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson on the same team, we play an auction draft league, meaning we're professionals. So, yeah. You can go and play snake as you want and be a prisoner to your draft pick, or you can play like the big boys and get in auctions, and then you can, if you want, you can spend your money like this and get Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey on the same team. That's essentially what Kicker did. He got a little bit of a discount on Bijan, who looks like a stud. I'm a little scared of Bijan this week. Luckily, I believe, what is he? Is that Detroit or Denver? I think it's Detroit. I'm scared. Let's see here. Yeah, it's Detroit. I expect Bijan and Christian both to have huge games this week. So I got to hope, Tua has a slower game against Denver and they hand the ball off to Raheem Mostert more, especially in the red zone. Not too concerned about Jared Judy. Not too concerned about Michael Thomas. So, if he gets lucky and gets a touchdown from one of those two players, he probably has a good chance of beating me. But I think that's what it's going to take for him to beat me is a touchdown from Thomas or Judy or Ertz or Najee Harris for that matter. Najee's a fucking bum, but he's got a really good matchup against Las Vegas this week. Mostert going against Denver. Not the best matchup in the world, but Denver has been bad against the run this year, so let's see if that continues. Hopefully it does. They're a lot better against the pass. Surtain is going to be on Tyreek Hill. Mostert's not competing with anybody in the backfield. I don't predict that changing at all. He's at 70% snap share, and even if that did change even a little bit, he's still the goal line runner. Until further notice, until Jeff Wilson comes back. So Mostert's a must start. I'm starting him over DeAndre Swift, which is kind of crazy to say because DeAndre's a much talented running back on one of the most elite offenses in the NFL with the best offensive line in the NFL. But I don't really know what they're going to do with Gainwell. Nobody really knows what they're going to do with Gainwell Monday night, and I'm not going to be that asshole that has Swift in his lineup and Gainwell starts again. So I'm going to wait and see how they play it. If it's 50-50 then I'll play Swift in some better spots. But against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Vita Vea, Devin White, and Levante David, they're extremely good against the run. They're weak against the pass. I know a lot about football, and and I imagine the Philadelphia Eagles organization does too. So they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit this coming week. It'll be the first week that you see Hurts have a big output as far as throwing the ball is concerned, and people are going to get off his back because they've been kind of riding him for having a down year so far at a 2-0. It's ridiculous when a team's they're facing last week is literally putting 8 people out defensively and rushing 3. Yeah, you're going to run the ball. That's exactly what they did. They give the ball to Swift every fucking dime. But Todd Bowles' defense is a lot more aggressive. The Bucs are a lot more aggressive. They're going to stop the run. So you're going to see Vita Vea stuffing the run. They're going to throw the ball. I think Mostert's an easy decision over Swift this week. Now, let's talk about Justin Fields. He's got Tua, as I said, against Denver. I'm not really worried about anybody on his team. His team's kind of garbage besides Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson. He spent most of his cap there. He didn't really fill it in well. Najee Harris is terrible, like I said, against Vegas. It's going to come down to the quarterback, and I have Justin Fields, and I want to make something very clear. I'm starting Matt Stafford this week, but I want to make something super, super clear. There's 3 very important reasons why I'm starting him over Fields. Number 1, when I drafted Justin Fields, I was extremely optimistic about this year. As a matter of fact, before the season started, I thought Justin Fields can be an MVP candidate, possibly the MVP of the NFL. But the NFL MVP, Justin Fields, that I thought I was going to get is not the one that's been deployed. And I don't totally blame that on Justin Fields. In fact, I probably blame 20% of that on Justin Fields and 80% on the Bears organization, a.k.a. their offensive coordinator and head coach. Now, Justin Fields has been absolutely getting shit on this week in the media by everybody. ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, Colin Cowherd, Fox Sports, you name it. They're that dude from Big Cat, because he's a big Chicago guy just like me. Obviously, you see around me all Bulls, all Bears, all Cubs. I'm diehard Chicago. I was there for week 1. I was there that weekend, went to a Cubs game. Actually, I saw Big Cat there at the Cubs game. We both had the same kind of weekend. We saw LLL. Cubs loss, Bears loss. And then the Cubs won on Sunday that day while I was at the Bears game. Now, with that being said, I'm not... My brain is firing on all cylinders today. 20% of that is on Justin Fields. Now, I'm going to reiterate this. When you have a player like Justin Fields, you do not bring your fucking offensive scheme to Justin and say, hey, Justin, you are going to run my scheme. That's not what you do. What you do is you create an offensive scheme around Justin Fields. This is what Bill Belichick is a master at. This is why he's a great coach. Look at what Sean McVay's doing out in LA. You don't make players run a scheme. You fit a scheme around your players. That's the way you win. That's the way you become a great offense. Now, I mentioned Bill because that's what he does defensively and offensively every week. I realize he's not the offensive coordinator. I realize he's more of a defensive head coach. But guess what? He's been in the NFL forever. There's games that the Patriots will come out and they'll pound you because they know you're weak against the run. And then the next week they'll come out and they'll be dotting you with short passes and or long passes. And I'm speaking about the Brady era, obviously, when they had LeGarrette Blount and they come out and play a defense that can't stop the run. They get an I form the whole game and pound you. Then the next game, they're in the gun the whole game. They do the same thing defensively. He can run dime on you and quarters on you, nickel on you all game. Then the next week, he's putting 5 people and running the 4-6 bear on the line. This is what great coaches do. They don't fucking have a scheme and make the players run their scheme. They create a scheme around their players, especially when it comes to offense. They thought they drafted Peyton Manning, apparently. I don't really understand. You had a guy who rushed for over 1,000 yards last year. Only 3 players in the NFL have ever done that. And you decided now this year, after 2 weeks, that you are only going to run 2 design runs, and one in which you motion your running back to the right, so you lose a +1 on that run. And essentially, it's just a crackback toss, as the QB coach has described on his show on YouTube, which is incredible. He hyper focuses way too much on footwork from Justin Fields. I think he knows this. If he was sitting here next to me right now, that Justin's worried about the fucking pass rush. They can't block for the guy. The right guard is terrible. The left tackle is terrible. Now they put him on IR. Believe me, that's like a typical Chicago thing we do. Usually we do it to Cubs players. When they're playing like shit, we say, hey, buddy, you're going to go on the DL, man. Your neck's killing you, man. He's like, no, my neck's fine. My neck's great, coach. Nah, I'm watching, and your neck looks like it hurts pretty bad. It looks like your toenail's missing too, buddy. We're going to put you on the DL. You know why? Because they suck, and it's time for them to take a break. And that's what we did to the left tackle, putting him on the IR for 4 weeks. Because he can't fucking block anybody. He's out of position all the time. And it's killing Justin Fields. Justin's back there with happy feet, not really going through his progressions comfortably. Granted, he shouldn't even be doing that in the first place because that's not the kind of quarterback he is. But you have Justin Fields, a guy that you should be quite literally looking at every single play that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens ran when he won the MVP that year. You should also be taking every single play from the year that Cam Newton won his MVP. And you should be stealing those plays and creating a package and scheme around those plays. Now, do you throw in some of your concepts and things that you like to do in Chicago when it's 3rd and long? Yeah, of course. Let's get in the gun on third and long and run some concepts that maybe this Bears offensive coordinator and these Bears coaches like to do. But we need to get under center more. We need to get in the pistol more. I'd love to see the Bears get in the pistol. Get the rookie Johnson and Herbert on the field at the same time. Get Tanyan and Kmet on the field at the same time. Run a 1 wide receiver set with DJ Moore. Run some triple options with a pass option at the back end of that. Run a lot more just straight up pounding the ball, lead dives and with the threat of Justin going on the outside, keeping those defensive ends contained. I don't know if Justin's seeing this on tape, but I know I have the last 2 weeks. He needs to realize that these linebackers, they're not playing the middle of the field. Those deep in routes, they're open all game. It doesn't matter what the defensive scheme. They're playing a lot of zone on the Bears, first of all. But typically for Justin, I know, and from his perspective, he's a little nervous about these ends, especially with the pass rush, because he's worried about linebackers dropping up in lanes. But he's got to realize who he is. And with that realization, these linebackers are focused on him taking off, especially guys like Levante David and Devin White who can run. So these ends are open all game. If he just looks at DJ Moore, pretty much stares him down, similarly to the way Allen looks at Diggs and or Stafford looked at Kupp and now looking at Puka, we could have been hitting DJ all game. Now, that was a bit of a rant. And the focus of that rant is that, number two, I am not giving up on Justin Fields. I was just explaining the reason why he's sitting on my bench today. And and it has nothing to do with giving up. It's sometimes, as a businessman, I'm not emotional, and as diehard of the Bears fan as I am, as a diehard as a Chicago fan I am, the number two reason I am starting Stafford over Fields is business. I love the fact that he's playing Monday night, and I have him paired with Puka Nacua. What kind of better duo can I have going into Monday night for this matchup in fantasy football? I want to be trailing with these two guys, which brings me to reason number three. Matthew Stafford looks absolutely fantastic this year. So far this year, on your screen, he has scored 17.8 and 7. Sorry, those were his projections. 17.8 and 19.05. You know how many points he's had on those? You know how many touchdowns he's thrown on those points? One touchdown. 300 yards plus both weeks against an immaculate San Francisco defense. Look at this green right here. Green, all green. This is something I look at when I pick up a guy, by the way. People are saying, oh my God, Puka, he's going to lose targets when Cooper Kupp comes back. Guess what? If Cooper Kupp comes back, what the fuck do you think Matthew Stafford is going to do? He's going to be slinging. This could be the quarterback of the year this year in fantasy. I'm not going to say they're going to win a bunch of games, but for fantasy, do you really think that there's not going to be some positive regression here at the touchdowns? He's thrown one touchdown, guys. They're moving the ball like crazy. Kyren Williams is getting, and even Cam Akers in week 1 got a touchdown rushing. That's not going to keep happening. They don't even have a great offensive line to be running the ball like that, which brings me to the reason number 4. The Rams offensive line is blocking this year for Stafford. He's got back there. I didn't see any pressure from San Francisco, really. I can only imagine what it's going to look like with Kupp, Tutu, and Puka out there at the same time running 3 receivers. Get Van Jefferson on the bench. You're talking about a guy who is probably going to throw for 300 yards every single week. I see some 4-touchdown games here, 3-touchdown games, a bunch of them coming, especially on this run here with a bunch of green. So, yeah, that's the reason why I'm starting Matthew Stafford. Justin Fields, reason number 5. If you watch the tape, Vita Vea absolutely dominated that game. The Bears' offensive line and specifically their guards are fucking terrible. What do you think Chris Jones is going to do? What do you think Kansas City is going to do with that scheme? They're going to rush the passer very hard. I can see them blitzing a lot. I can also see a situation where the Bears do unleash Justin after all this negative feedback these last 2 weeks, but until they prove it to me at this point, I gotta start Stafford with all that green you saw here. Let's go back. All this green you see, this looks unbelievable. All this green, with only 1 touchdown thrown so far. That means all these weeks I'm due for some touchdowns, and some of them are going to be to this guy, Puka Nacua. So, I'm eyeing week 5 against Minnesota. That'll be the week that I unleash Justin Fields again. His schedule gets extremely easy after week 5. We play a tough Kansas City defense, and I say tough because they are really improved this year. With Chris Jones on the field, that defense looked immaculate. That was a battle against down in Jacksonville this past week. People don't understand that was a big-time playoff matchup. Both of those teams are going to be in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine. They just ran into a really good defense, man. There's a lot of young, good corners on that Kansas City defense. I'm gonna say Bolton, I believe, is the linebacker. I could be wrong about the name, but I have to double check. But he's an absolute superstar. Made that big fumble return in the Super Bowl, just so in case you're not aware of who that is. Then they play a tough Denver defense and a tough Washington defense. There's a chance that I could start Fields in one of those weeks, depending on what I see from him in week 3 and 4. But he's definitely going to be in my lineup down the line. I have not given up on him. The ceiling is way too high for Justin Fields. As soon as they start rushing him, and when I say rushing him, I need 10 design runs a game. That's what I was expecting when I drafted Justin Fields in fantasy. 10 design runs a game. And I'm getting 1 a game right now, on average. I got 1 each game. I need 10 a game. And guess what happens when you start doing design runs like that, 10 a game? The defense has got to change up their scheme. They got to try to stop the run. We got a +1 with Justin running the ball. We got to stop the run. And when they got to stop the run, guess what happens to the pass game? It becomes a lot easier. These defensive ends are freezing. They don't really want to rush the passer so hard anymore. They want to contain more. A lot of the reads become easier because everybody's getting sucked in. Mooney and DJ Moore find themselves maybe open on deep posts for touchdowns. A lot of good things can happen if we commit to the run, specifically committing to the run with Justin Fields. I don't know what Chicago's doing with that scheme. I don't really understand. I don't understand what they're doing, man. They're primarily running the gun and 3 receivers, primarily. That's what I would say their number one formation is. Gun, 3 receivers, a lot of different looks. They're doing trips right quite a bit. They're doing a lot of traditional shotgun, normal. A little bit of shotgun doubles, 2 receivers tight, 1 receiver wide with the tight end. But it's ugly, and it's not a scheme that you're going to run with the quarterback like that. You need to get in more bunch sets. You need to take advantage of the threat that Justin's going to run, because if we're dropping back, the defense starts to feel like they don't even have to worry about the run anymore. And when they don't have to worry about the run, then what are we doing? We're throwing out DJ Moore, Mooney, and sorry-ass Claypool out there to try to beat people. It's a joke. Moving on, Puka Nacua, I expect a huge game from him again Monday night, paired with Stafford. Nico Collins is going to be I would say he's going to be the pickup of the year, but Puka Nacua is going to be the pickup of the year. So I got both of those guys. I did really well in free agency, as you can see. That's what Fantasy Football Aces does. Nico Collins is an absolute superstar, and I don't say that lightly. I'm definitely going to, create this into a reel and upload it to Instagram just so people can at me. But Nico Collins is a star. He's 6'4". He runs a 4.4. His hands have glue attached to him. He reminds me of the great Calvin Johnson, and that says a lot, because Calvin's top 3 ever to play the game. Now, don't take me out of context. I know that Nico is not Calvin Johnson. He's not big enough, first of all. Calvin was 6'5", and he was much bigger. Probably faster, too. But Nico plays like him. The yards after the catch are phenomenal. The air yardage is phenomenal. All the advanced analytics are phenomenal. Number 1 graded PFF wide receiver in the NFL last week. Nico looks great, man. Looked like he's been just missing a quarterback. It looked like he just was wishing he had a quarterback for the last, 2 years. But he's got one now, man. The Texans suck, but C.J. Stroud is slinging that thing. There's a good chance I start Sky Moore over DeAndre Hopkins, guys. I can see DeAndre Hopkins running into Ward, the Cleveland corner, who's one of the best in the NFL, and getting boxed up this week. I'm not high on Tennessee's offense. There's going to be spots that I like DeAndre Hopkins a lot, but this might not be one of them, specifically when Sky Moore is going against the Bears. Sky Moore is still the number 1 or number 2 most deployed wide receiver for Kansas City. Him and MVS, most routes run. The last 2 weeks in total. He only had 3 or 4 targets last week, but one of them was an amazing back shoulder throw from Mahomes on the goal line. And you only make that kind of throw, Mahomes does, if you really trust the receivers. So that's a really good sign for that duo. I think big days are ahead of Sky Moore. I actually think that this could be the breakout week against the Chicago Bears. And I do have the balls to start them, trust me. That decision will be made Sunday. You'll know the decision Sunday live here in studio. But I believe that I will. There's a good chance I start Sky Moore over DeAndre Hopkins. I only would keep DeAndre in because I really do appreciate DeAndre's volume. I like the fact that he gets a lot of targets, but he has a tough matchup this week. On top of that, I just feel they haven't been really. They've been playing Treylon Burks 90% plus on snaps, and DeAndre was 50% last week. I think a lot of that had to do with him being questionable all week with the ankle injury. But the week prior to that, he was only 70% snap share. And I don't like that. He should be the clear number 1, getting 90% plus snaps. So I don't really understand that. And it's kind of like one of those things where I want to see, like, let's wait and see kind of approach with him and figure out what the hell is going on there in Tennessee. But week 1, he had 13 targets. So if we can get back to that volume, he'll never come out of my lineup. 13 targets is just too much. James Cook against the Washington Commanders. James is only getting like 60% of snaps right now, right on the money, like both weeks. They're definitely going to deploy Latavius Murray and Damian Harris, those other 20% of snaps, 20 and 20, I should say. And I'm okay with that. It's kind of what I expected this year. I knew that he wouldn't be the goal line back, so nothing is unexpected there. I spent $22 on James Cook. If you got James Cook in the 5th round, trust me, it's still a steal. You're getting value for James Cook. Let me make sure I'm live, by the way. I'm fucking live. I'm so fucking live. I've never been so live. Let me. God, I've never been so live in my life, guys. Let's see what the Diamond Chat's saying. All right. So, yeah, James Cook is exactly who we thought he was going to be. And I haven't mentioned this, guys. Yeah, I did. I mentioned it earlier. Young Kicker will be here Sunday. I was hoping he would come in today, but his asshole hurts. So he'll be in here Sunday. Raheem Mostert, we talked about him and why I'm starting him over DeAndre Swift. This is going to be a good matchup, guys. It's very, very, it's a coin flip. We got Tony Pollard way underrated at 13.81 against Christian's 18. Those guys should be the same. I mean, you could give Christian maybe a half a point better when it comes to his projections, but we're talking about Pollard, who's going against sorry-ass Cardinals. I think Pollard's probably going to have like a 30 burger this week. So these projections should be the same. So it's a coin flip this week. I think it's really going to come down to how big of a game Bijan has versus Cook and Mostert. It's also going to come down to whether or not Najee Harris, Michael Thomas, or Judy get a touchdown. Because none of those guys are getting volume. None of those guys are getting a lot of yardage. So it's really going to matter if they get a touchdown or not. If one of those guys gets a touchdown or two of those guys get a touchdown, he's going to win this week. That's just the way his team is built. He's relying on those sorry players to get touchdowns. Calvin Ridley, I expect him to do his thing. It's kind of like one of those zigzag things with these receivers. It happens a lot, actually. It happens more than you think. 24, and then the next week's 20 again, and then the next week's like 8 again, and then the next week's like 17. It's like a zigzag. I see that quite a bit. I don't know why that happens in fantasy, but it does happen quite a bit. It's a pattern you can actually kind of follow. If you have a lot of depth at receiver, it's not a bad thing to try to strategize behind, like following the pattern and switching guys in and out and always catching the outputs, you know. I expect Calvin Ridley to have a big game. I expect McCaffrey and Bijan to have a big game. It's just a matter of hoping that they don't have is like a 30 burger or a 40 burger. As long as I can avoid a touchdown from Najee, Ertz, Thomas, Judy, and then I can have Tua just, a mediocre game, I should win this week. But it's going to be a coin flip. I like me this week, though. My team's strong right now. I'm very optimistic that we're going to put out at least 120, 130 points this week. So I expect a win. We'll do this again Sunday with Young Kicker, but let's move on to Midlife Crisis and Physics Stream Team. We're not going to go in depth about all these games, but we're going to make a pick. Pat Mahomes is going against Chicago. AJ Brown is going to have a big week this week. You should be putting AJ Brown in your DraftKings lineups this weekend. I'm going to. AJ Brown is going to have a huge game against the Buccaneers. Mark my words. Michael Pittman will bounce back and get another touchdown this week. He was one of my most undervalued receivers in the NFL going into fantasy this year. Big week from him. I don't like this Zay Jones play, but I don't know if he has any other choice. It doesn't look like he does. If I was him, I would be starting Zach Moss over Javonte Williams, but that's me. Derrick Henry should be fine. I got to read this. You guys can't even see it on your screen. Let me change this up. He should be fine. It looks like a toe thing. They're just resting him. So he'll be fine. Besides that, Kamara's coming back for him next week. Midlife Crisis is going against Houston here. That's not good. I think Travis Etienne's going to have a big game, and Trevor Lawrence is not. That's just this thing, the pattern that I see when teams play against Houston. The quarterbacks don't do much, and it's not because any other reason except that they end up blowing Houston out, and the quarterbacks don't have to do much, and then they run the ball, and that was the pattern you saw last year. Houston was one of the best teams in the NFL against the quarterback, and it wasn't because they had a good defense against the pass. It was just because teams always blew them out. They didn't need to throw the ball. So it's not really necessarily a good thing going against Houston, but you also aren't disappointed when you're facing them. So maybe Trevor will break that pattern. He needs a big game from Debo. He needs another big game from Pickens, which is possible against Las Vegas for sure. Gibbs, he's going to be unleashed this week. It'll be the first week that he's unleashed. No more Montgomery on his thorn on his backside. So, in theory, Gibbs should have as big of a game as anybody in the NFL. They have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. They're going against a pretty mediocre defense, in my opinion, in the Atlanta Falcons. I would expect Gibbs to have a phenomenal game. Breece Hall, he can keep bitching to the organization, man, but what are they saying? His knee's already sore. Yeah, we're not going to get a lot of carries from him. He doesn't have a choice, though, man. He doesn't have any other running backs. I'd probably move. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a choice. He's going to end up probably starting Kareem Hunt. after Hunt disappoints him. I mean, after Hall disappoints him again. But yeah, Brees Hall ain't gonna do shit this week against New England. It's gonna be very disappointing. They're gonna be 3-and-out. The Jets will be three. I don't know if you guys know this, but they haven't beat New England in like some ridiculous amount of times during the regular season, like 12 straight times. Tons of 3-and-outs for the Jets. He's not going to get a lot of opportunities. Brees Hall is not really startable right now if you have somebody else to put in your lineup, but he doesn't have a choice. Goddard, I think Goddard's going to bounce back this week. I'd even consider putting him in your DraftKings lineups this week. I think Dallas is a good play. I think he's due. He's a good tight end, guys. I mean, you're going to expect these kind of outputs that he's put out so far. In theory, he's gone against two good defenses against the tight end position. Although I don't value this as much right now because it's so early in the season, you don't really get a good chance of seeing if it's true or not until probably like week 9 or 10. But Dallas is probably due for a good game, just like I think A.J. Brown's going to have a monster game this week. So, yeah, that's not a bad play. I think Godwin is probably due for a touchdown maybe or even a bigger game than he's had. He's been a little quiet. I think that this year he's going to have a down year. It looks like, Baker's more focused on throwing to Mike Evans, which is a good thing. That's the way it should be. Tom Brady was more hyper-focused on quick throws, and it's because he's so smart and he knew his offensive line wasn't that great. So Godwin kind of benefited from that a lot. So did White in the backfield, throwing the ball a lot to him last year. But this year, Baker likes to push the ball downfield more. So Godwin's not getting as much volume as he once was. His stock is way down, but I think that, in the flex, it's a good play. I don't mind Godwin ever in my flex. I don't think I personally would never build a team where I had a receiver in my flex, but I think that he can have a good game this week. I think midlife with Jahmyr Gibbs being unleashed is in a position to break out this week. May I say he might score over 110. I like the 114 projection. Unfortunately for midlife, he's about to run into a team that is ready to explode as well. I think Pat Mahomes, you're going to see a fucking huge game against the Bears. A.J. Brown will have a huge game. And this game's going to come down, it's going to be a coin flip, man, but this one's really tough. I think with Pat Mahomes, man, I'm just going to bet on Physics Dream Team because of Pat Mahomes. Moving on to the next matchup, it's going to be Comeback Kid versus Whoopsie. These two teams are 0-2, so somebody is going to get a dub. This guy doesn't set his lineup until the week, but he spent $100 on Jerome Ford. He also got Akers traded over to Minnesota. He's also has A.J. Dillon. I think Aaron Jones is coming back, though. So he will be starting Jerome Ford here at his running back spot. He's got Joe Mixon, who's been underwhelming this year going against the Rams on Monday Night Football. His receivers, he has a bunch of them, but he has a difficult time deciding on who to start what. Obviously, Addison scored 2 touchdowns yet, but he doesn't have him in his lineup yet, which is understandable because they're giving he's third on the depth chart and he's only getting like 50% of snap share right now. I expect CeeDee Lamb to have a big game against Arizona. I just think that Dallas is going to get up early and it's going to be a lot more running. I think Pollard really benefits the most from this matchup. But CeeDee will have a big game. Same thing with Dak. I think it's 50-50 on whether or not he has a good game or not, simply because I just think Pollard is going to dominate in this game, rushing the ball, that they're not going to have to do much else. Could be wrong. That's just the way I see it. I hate the way Matos' team is built. I'm picking against this team probably most of the year, no matter what. Um, Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Higgins. He's gonna start Goff over Burrow. That's bold. Um, he may regret that, especially because I think Gibbs is gonna have a huge game and they're not gonna need to throw the ball much. Josh Jacobs against Pittsburgh. We're gonna have to start. We're gonna have to start Kelly again. I think Eckler may be out. This is young kicker, by the way. He made it in. What's up, young kick? What up, baby? We play this week. It's gonna be a big week. You think you're gonna beat me? Yeah, you do. You're a big girl though. Anyways, George Kittle, I think he's gonna bounce back this week, tonight. So I'm going with comeback kid, even though I hate this Kelly here. I just think that God, these two teams are fucking terrible. They're both bad. God, who's the better of the worst? I think these are two of the worst teams in the league. Unless Jonathan Taylor comes back and balls, these two teams are both really bad. I think they're the two worst teams in the league. I like his receivers, though, a lot. Devontae, Zay, and Higgins, I just like those three guys, man. I think Goff's okay play against Atlanta. I'm taking comeback kid. There's a reason why they're both 0-2. Moving on to the criminals. This guy's got the fattest mouth in our league. He thinks he knows everything. Shane Kiper with his little Shane Kiper picture. He's facing off against John's team. He's been talking trash to John all week, trying to bet him because John lost Barkley, and he's going to have to put in Breida. John's throwing out a weak Connor against Dallas. That's not going to work in his favor. Lucky for John, Diggs got hurt today, so Hollywood Brown has potential of possibly having a better game, but I don't know, man. Dallas really rushes after the passer, and once Dallas gets a lead, they're going to pin their ears back and they're going to, frankly, kill Dobbs, the quarterback for Arizona. Lamar Jackson, who we going against? My eyes, I should know this off the top of my head because I have Pollard, but let me look here. The Ravens against the Colts. Yeah, so Lamar against the Colts. I like that matchup for Lamar. Kirk Cousins against the Chargers. They've been really bad against the pass, so that's a good thing for the criminals. Garrett Wilson will be completely locked up against New England. DJ Moore will probably get locked up against Kansas City. Waddle he could get his, but I wouldn't count on it against Denver. Looks like he's banged up. I don't know. Concussion. That's usually never good. ETN against Houston. That's huge for him. Kenneth Walker against Carolina. That's a huge matchup for him. Waller against San Francisco. I don't like him to do shit today, but that doesn't really matter. And he's going to have to put in Tank Dell, who I think can actually produce. If he's going to start Pitts or is he going to start Hunter Henry? I mean, I assume he's going to start Hunter Henry. That's decent there instead of Pitts. I don't mind leaving Pitts in there, but he's just a freaking disappointment every single day, every single week. Devontae Adams, Olave against Green Bay. That's a horrible matchup for Olave. I'm going with the criminals on this one. 3-0 criminals. You Kyrene, bitch. Apparently, that's a good Asian joke because I don't really get it still, but the Asians seem to think that's a clever one. I don't think it's very clever. I don't get it. I don't think it's clever. Um, Herbert, Jefferson, London, Dotson, Bryan, Madison, Hawkinson, Hurts, Chase, Hill, Shaheed. If Eckler plays this week, I like automatic pickings this matchup. I think Lee and Kareem bitch his team comes back down to earth this week as long as automatic pickings has Eckler. If he doesn't have Eckler, I'll switch my pick. So Sunday we will possibly switch this, but for the time being, I think Eckler's not playing, by the way, and if that's the case, then I'm gonna switch my pick. But let's assume he is playing. I think that automatic pickings can get a dub here. I really do. Also, throw in the fact that Gus Edwards, I think Justice Hill's going to be out. So Gus Edwards is going to get all the action this week. So that could be big for automatic pickings. I just think that this team comes back down to earth a little bit. I think they're going to. I think also the LA Chargers defense is going to be a little bit better this week than they have been. They've been pretty bad. I think they bounced back this week against a Minnesota team who I believe is regressing this year and is going to continue to regress. They were way overrated last year. They were my pick of the week against the Giants in the playoffs last year. Giants were easy money, and I don't say that in hindsight. I believe in the shit I say. Let's move on to the last matchup. It is James O'Crea versus the nicest guy I know. I am nice, Gary M. Looks like Gary M's got a lot of injuries, but I know St. Brown is going to play. He practiced today. We don't know what's going to happen with Gainwell. Let's switch this so we can see it. So I don't think we really know whether or not Gainwell is going to play or not, which hinders a huge decision for me in the diamond, whether or not I want to start Swift or Mostert. But I can't wait till Monday night. I have to make a decision before that. So for Gary, it matters a lot more. If he can't play, he's going to have to throw in, I don't even know. I don't even think he has. The problem is it's Monday night. He's going to have to pick up like Scott or somebody, some backup Eagles running back and throw him in there just to have somebody there if he's going to try to go with this approach and then hypothetically Gainwell doesn't play. Even if Gainwell does play, I don't think he'll get more than 50% snap share. I think that there's a good chance he's the starter maybe still. I think that's the type of decision Philadelphia is not going to just change just based upon Swift having a huge game. But I don't love that. I think Kelsey's going to have a monster game. I think Tutu can have a good game. Deshaun Watson sucks. I think I Am Nice's team is quite possibly could be the worst team in our league, besides the other two teams I just mentioned. So even with James losing Chubb this week and not replacing him with anybody, I think that Herbert's very bad right now. He's got good receivers, though, and he's got Josh Allen. I'm going to pick Korea to win this one. This is a really bad ball club. I Am Nice. I don't know how Yahoo likes him so much. They like Cooper way more than they should. And that's about it. I don't know how else it adds up to so much. I guess Justin Tucker and San Francisco's defense helps him a lot in there because that's 6 points right there, more than what my defense and kicker are projected at. So that probably is what makes a difference for his team. But yeah, we'll pick Korea in this one. Now, let's move on to the pick of the night. And the pick of the night is going to be I'm not going to make this dramatic at all. You're going to take a look here and see that the over the over under is not being shown there, but that's okay. It's 10 and a half. And we'll take a look at the over under here on my phone, which is 43 and a half. So I feel really, really, really strongly about 49ers tonight. So I am 1-0-1. It was a push last week. Should have been a win, in my opinion. Depends on who you ask. Obviously, I heard some people out there who thought that the Vikings should have covered. I don't know how they thought that when they backdoored a push, but nonetheless, I guess they blame it on the Justin Jefferson fumble. But I saw a team that I think sucks ass in the Vikings. So this week we are going to ride with the 49ers. I think that defense is going to bounce back from what they did last week against a really surprising offense in the LA Rams and Stafford. And they're going to run into a team that doesn't have Barkley, and they're going to realize that they're awful without Barkley, because Barkley is essentially the only reason why their offense is remotely good. It's the same thing the Bears should be doing. When you have a player like Fields, it's equivalent to even more better of a player than Barkley, as far as the defense has to scheme to stop a certain guy, right? So when they play the Giants, they're trying to stop Barkley, and which opens up everything else. And that's exactly what the Bears should be doing. They should be trying to make teams have to stop Justin from running the ball. And then when they have to do that, then you throw, and your passing scheme is a lot easier. But they don't understand. They don't seem to understand that concept. And the Giants do not have Barkley, and they're going to suffer from that. They're going to get absolutely smoked today, similarly to the way they got smoked by Dallas Cowboys, and similarly to the way they got smoked by the Cardinals in the first half last week. The Giants, they're worse than I thought they were going to be this year. I will say that. I thought they were going to be better. But without Barkley, they're in trouble. I would take the under in this game. I think it's going to be a blowout with the Giants not scoring a lot of points. I don't think they're going to get a lot of first downs. I think you're going to see a lot of 3 and outs. It's possible that Jones, hey, lay down. It's possible that Jones, Daniel makes, finds the sweet spots in the zone, similarly to the way Stafford did with Puka, but I don't think Daniel's even 10% of the quarterback that Stafford is, as far as that's concerned. So it's going to be a difficult time for the Giants moving the ball. And I got the 49ers in an absolute blowout. So I'm actually going to play this one too, guys. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I think the 49ers are really sharp tonight. I love them tonight. You'll also hear on Sunday my sharp pick of the week. I'm 1-1 now, unfortunately, but you're seeing it in real on tape. We have receipts, so it's going to happen, and I'm going to have a good or a bad record, and you're going to find out how sharp I really am. I took the Jaguars last week against Kansas City. I had many opportunities to backdoor and win that bet, but Trevor Lawrence couldn't push the ball in the end zone twice inside the goal line against Kansas City. So with the points, they would have covered if they could have gotten the end zone. Either one of those times, they just weren't able to do it. Kansas City held strong. It looks like their defense is really good this year, which is why I think they're going to completely lock up the Bears. But We're 1-0-1 on Thursdays, a win, no losses, and a push, and we're taking the 49ers tonight in a blowout. I think that the Giants have a really small outside chance of possibly backdooring in this game. One of the other ways that they possibly could cover is scoring early on something like a punt return, or maybe they get a turnover and off a fluke fumble and get up 7-0. And then I think the 49ers will have a difficult time covering 10.5. But if the 49ers can get ahead in this game early, it's going to be an avalanche. Similarly, I have to keep saying this word, to the way Dallas did to the Giants. Once the 49ers are able to pin their ears back and really rush the passer, it's going to be extremely difficult for... Hey, stop it. Go lay down. Everybody can hear you barking. Nobody likes it. Lay down. Go lay down. Lay down. I'm going to close the door. And you understand? You understand? So that'll be the pick of the night. We haven't had anybody pop in the chat today. So no guests today either. We've been running, almost an hour, a little over an hour, so that's plenty of time. We went over the diamond. We went over the pick of the night in betting, which was the San Francisco 49ers. What else did we say we were going to talk about? That's it, man. I mean, we talked a little bit about start and sits. I actually went into some other people's teams and who I would start versus the way they had their lineup set. So that'll do it for tonight. Without anybody popping in the chat, which they haven't, to ask any questions, I'm going to call it a night. No guests tonight, but we got Thursday night football coming. I'm going to eat some dinner and watch the game. And we got Young Kicker popping in the building Sunday. He will be here at 10:30 a.m. We'll go live somewhere in between 10:30 and 11 a.m. It'll be a lot of fun. We're going to go over his picks in the diamond. We're going to talk about his love for football and fantasy football in the diamond specifically. We're going to talk about my fantasy football $1,000 lineup, which I will deploy. And we'll give the pick of the week, baby. I got a pick of the week coming for you this weekend that I really think is going to be an easy one. So let's get this money. Let's get these fantasy football championships. Y'all have a good night. Peace out.